The plate crashed against the dining room wall, rice and vegetables spattering across the floral wallpaper. My mother-in-law's voice sliced through the shocked silence. "I just prepared dinner for the family members. Wives are not included after all." The words hung in the air like poison. My husband Nathan's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening around his napkin. My father-in-law Richard's face drained of color as he stared at the empty space where my dinner should have been. The culmination of 8 years of subtle torment delivered in one unambiguous statement. My fingers trembled as I reached for my bag beneath the table, but my voice remained steady. "It's okay. I'll eat what I prepared." "Wait a minute." I pulled out a manila envelope, its weight suddenly significant in my hand. "Victoria, I found this. I thought you might want to see it." My name is Olivia. I'm 32 and a marketing executive. This is the story of how I dismantled a family tyrant with her own secrets. For years, I'd endured my mother-in-law's subtle campaign against me. Victoria called herself the Madonna of the family. She was the matriarch presiding over her kingdom of men. When I married Nathan 8 years ago, I became the interloper, the woman threatening her reign over her middle son and the family dynamics she controlled. "I can't believe Nathan is getting married," she'd said at our engagement dinner, her voice honey-sweet with venom. "He used to say he was going to marry me." The table had fallen silent, Nathan's brothers exchanging uncomfortable glances while my future husband squeezed my hand under the table. Nathan always defended me in these moments, but he missed her more insidious tactics. While he saw his mother as occasionally difficult but ultimately loving, I experienced the real Victoria. She was calculated, manipulative, and determined to undermine me at every opportunity. Her most effective weapon was food. She'd insist on hosting family dinners, refusing any help in the kitchen. "Absolutely not, dear. You're our guest," she'd say, shooing me away with manicured hands. Then she'd serve dishes that looked identical to everyone else's, but mine would be sabotaged. Fish soup with tiny bones that scratched my throat raw, potatoes soaked in vinegar, meat oversalted to the point of being inedible. When I'd cough or struggle to swallow, she'd feign concern. "Oh dear, are you all right?" "You don't like my cooking." Her performance was always flawless, her eyes wide with innocence while I choked or gagged. Nathan would rush to my defense, but Victoria would twist the situation. "Fine, you're all on her side. I slave away in the kitchen, and what's my reward?" The turning point came during a business trip to Philadelphia. Walking back to my hotel after a client meeting, I glimpsed a familiar figure across the street. Victoria, her arm linked with a man at least 20 years her junior. They weren't walking like friends or relatives. Their bodies moved in the intimate synchronization of lovers. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Victoria lived in Cincinnati, nearly 600 miles away. What was she doing here? And with this man? I followed them to a cafe, watching as they sat beside each other rather than across, their hands entwined on the table. When their faces drew close for a kiss, I started recording on my phone, my fingers numb with shock. They disappeared into a hotel 30 minutes later. I stood on the sidewalk opposite, staring at the revolving doors they'd passed through, the evidence securely captured on my device. That night, I called Nathan. "You don't want to see your parents doing something shameful, do you?" I asked carefully, gauging his reaction. "I don't care," he replied absently, sorting through mail at our kitchen counter. "Is something wrong with my parents?" "It was your mother," I said, my heart pounding. "I saw her today, here in Philadelphia." His head snapped up. "What? With who?" I told him everything, showing him the videos and pictures when I returned home. His reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of shock, I saw resignation spread across his features. "It's not her first time," he said flatly. "She cheated on Dad years ago when my brother Jason was still in middle school. Dad forgave her. They rebuilt their relationship. At least that's what we thought." Something shifted inside me. The woman who had tormented me, who positioned herself as the moral center of the family while treating me like an unwelcome outsider, was living a double life. "I want to hire an investigator," I said, the words forming before I'd fully processed the thought. Nathan's eyes met mine, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Let's do it. It's worth every penny. We can use some of the bonus I got from last quarter's project to cover the costs. The investigation took a month. When the report arrived, even Nathan was stunned. Victoria hadn't been seeing one young man. She'd been maintaining relationships with 5 different men, all in their 20s, across multiple cities. She'd been systematically draining family funds to finance these affairs, spending thousands on hotels, gifts, and dinners. The investigator had managed to track her spending patterns through credit card statements that Richard had provided once Nathan explained the situation to him privately. "Let's take this to Mom," Nathan said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Shouldn't we give it to your father first?" I suggested. "Let him decide what to do." Nathan shook his head. "That won't make us feel better. Mom did terrible things to you for years, Olivia. Let's give her the revenge she deserves. I should do something for my dearest wife, shouldn't I?" The confrontation was set for the next family dinner. Nathan quietly informed his father beforehand. Richard deserved preparation, not a public ambush. When we arrived at their house that weekend, Victoria greeted me with her usual thinly veiled hostility, unaware that her carefully constructed world was about to implode. At dinner, she launched her attack, serving everyone but me. "I just prepared dinner for the family members. Wives are not included after all," she announced with a smug smile. The moment had arrived. I reached into my bag for the envelope, my heart strangely calm. "Victoria, I found this. I thought you might want to see it." She took it with a dismissive smile. "Oh, you can be smart sometimes." The moment she opened it and saw the contents, her entire body went rigid. Her hands began to shake so violently that rice spilled from her chopsticks in a steady stream. "What's the matter?" Richard asked, his voice already knowing. "It's nothing," Victoria whispered, but her face had drained of color. Nathan took the envelope from her trembling hands despite her protests. "What's this? Looks like an old woman buying a young man for a date," he said, examining the photos. "You should check the other side, and the back too." Richard's face hardened as he viewed the evidence of his wife's betrayal. Not a one-time mistake, but a pattern of deception spanning years and multiple partners. "You really don't learn, do you?" he said quietly. "I can't believe all my hard work was turned into this." Victoria's carefully constructed facade cracked completely. "This isn't cheating," she protested. "It's just for fun. You're not wasting that money on something like that." "It's disgusting," Nathan cut in, "and these guys are even younger than us." "By the way, Jason and Daniel know about this too," I added, watching her eyes widen in horror. "Everyone knows now." We had met with them separately last week to show them the evidence, knowing they deserved to understand what was happening to their family. Victoria turned to me, desperate for an ally. "You're also a woman, don't you understand? It's never enough to be only a wife or mother, is it?" I met her gaze steadily. "I don't spend money on men who aren't my family. It's such a waste. I would have spent it on Nathan or our son." Our 4-year-old had been staying with my parents for the weekend, spared from witnessing this family implosion. Richard stood up, his decision made. "I was planning to divorce you when I retired anyway. This is good timing. I forgave you once when I found out about your affair years ago, but you didn't learn. You kept doing the same thing." The realization dawned on Victoria's face as her husband continued. "I knew about your absences. On the days you were out, dinner would be frozen food. You didn't think I would know?" "It's all your fault," Victoria screamed. "You were not with me." "That's what you do," Nathan said. "You blame everyone else. It's a miracle we 3 sons turned out to be good people with this kind of mother." "Yeah," Richard agreed. "That's because you 3 looked at her as a negative example. I think she's the reason Daniel and Jason are still single. If you have a spouse like this, you're seriously screwed for life." "This is a good start," Richard continued. "Now get out of my house. I'm not giving you any of my retirement money." Victoria's final attempts to claim alimony fell flat against Richard's careful financial planning. She stumbled from the dining room in a daze, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. She never returned to the house. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, leaving Victoria penniless. She moved back to her parents' home, but without money, her young companions disappeared. Her parents, instead of supporting her retirement, insisted she work full-time. Last I heard, she was working as a cashier at a supermarket near their house. Richard, despite everything, has emerged as a generous, kind man, finally free to enjoy his life. My brothers-in-law Daniel and Jason, who rarely visited while Victoria ruled the house, now come by often. They've even started talking about getting married, no longer afraid of replicating their parents' toxic relationship. Our family has found harmony in Victoria's absence. I'm now pregnant with our second child, and for the first time since joining this family, I feel completely at home. When I look back at that dinner, at the moment the plate crashed against the wall and Victoria's true nature was finally exposed to everyone, I realize something important. Secrets eventually surface, and the people who work hardest to maintain a perfect image often have the most to hide. If you're dealing with someone who systematically undermines you while maintaining their innocence, trust your instincts, document everything, and remember that sometimes justice arrives in an unexpected envelope at exactly the right moment.